Hello, my name is Randall Campora. I'm the bass trombonist of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, and I have the great pleasure to give you a little bit of a guided tour through your Mussorgsky Pictures at an Exhibition audition material for the BSYO Orchestra, the youth orchestra. And this is a wonderful piece, of course, and the first thing I'm going to tell you is you have to do a lot of listening, not just to the excerpts, but to the entire piece to get the style and to hear what the brass are doing in relation to the strings and the woodwinds and the percussion. I have some favorite recordings that I like to listen to. There's one that a video that I believe is on YouTube. It's the Chicago Symphony Orchestra with one of their older conductors, Sholti, spelled S-O-L-T-I, and they're giving a live concert, video concert in Tokyo, Japan, in Suntory Hall. And I would recommend that you find that on YouTube and listen to that whole piece, and it's wonderful, and they sound great. I would also recommend for my younger musician friends that at some point, the sooner the better, that you buy an inexpensive CD player and some headphones that are decent but not super expensive, and buy some CDs and listen to a piece like Pictures at an Exhibition. There are many, many recordings available of this piece. Find one that you think you like really well and buy a CD and listen to it in the headphones, or if your family has an audio system, you can listen to it through there. You'll find that you'll hear a lot more detail, more colors in the sound, you'll hear the articulation, and you'll get a much better feel for what it sounds like being on stage or in the hall. And I really recommend that to you if you're a really serious young musician. Okay, so let's do a couple of things here. The first excerpt is from the opening Promenade. And listen on your recording how the trumpet plays that opening statement, and you're going to basically match that type of articulation. These notes are long, they are articulated, and we're going to use something that is, in order to not have too much space between these notes, we're going to use something called a fast articulation. Fast does not refer to the speed of the notes. It refers to the length of time that the tongue is interrupting the air between the two notes. The tongue is only touching the palate or the teeth for a very short period of time. If it touches and stays on those areas for a longer period of time, it produces more space between the notes. And so that's why we're gonna work on this type of articulation in this style, to where we're ta ti 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 ta ti to. So that's what we mean by a fast articulation. Okay, so. When we get to the accents, we're going to play just a little bit louder because it's the very end of the movement, and the notes are going to have a little bit different shape. They're going to have a slight decay after the articulation. There's going to be a little bit more air in the beginning of it. Okay? So let me play this for you, and we'll see how it goes. So that gives you an idea of how I'd play this. I'm in a dead basement. It doesn't sound the way it would in the hall. So it's just a forte, just an easy forte, and then we give kind of an easy fortissimo after that. Let me just play a couple of those notes again, just to show you what I'm trying to work on with that long articulation. I mean, that fast articulation with long notes. And do you hear the little different shape with the accents? The conductor will usually tell you how long the last note should be, or whether they want it a little bit longer than the previous notes or just the same. The conductor will usually take care of that. Okay, you could even practice the trumpet line, memorize it and hear the tune and play that in the mid-range of your instrument so that you can get used to that style. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is from the next movement. And so this is with a moment for the tuba and the bass trombone to really shine and come through the texture. There's a mistake in the part. The actual dynamic in this part should be fortissimo, and très soutenu means very sustained. So we're going to use that same type of articulation that we just used in the Promenade. It's going to be a fast articulation. The tongue is going to make a strike on the mouth behind the lips. It's going to be very fast. It's not going to stay on the mouth very long because we don't want a big interruption in the sound, but we do want clarity. Practice this with a metronome so you don't get behind. And also, this is very challenging for right-hand slide positions because of the way the notes are kind of chromatically going down. And so you're going to have to work with your tuner and make sure you're hitting the spots both with your buzz and with your hand so that you're playing it in tune. Make sure your fifth positions are in the right spot. And the other thing that I'll say is for breathing and phrasing, it's completely okay to breathe at the end of the second bar. Pom, pom, pee, pom, pom, pee, pee. That's totally fine. There's also another way to do it, which is to put the breath after the first note of the third bar. But you and the tuba have to do it together. You have to figure out which one you're going to do. For the audition purposes, either one will be fine. I usually prefer, depending on the tempo, to breathe after the A flat because it gives the phrase a little bit more forward momentum with the phrasing rather than always breathing right on the bar lines. Nice crescendo into the last bar and keep crescendoing, and the last note, the D flat, is usually played short because there's a little percussion slap. There's a slap on that note, and so it's usually played short even though there's no staccato there. All right, I'm going to try to give this a shot. So I should say that even though the dynamic is fortissimo, it's usually played a healthy forte, like a forte plus, somewhere between a forte and a fortissimo, because the instrumentation is such that you're not really being covered by the other instruments in the orchestra. And I'm being kind of conservative because I'm in a smaller room in my basement and stuff. And so if you were in a bigger room, you'd figure that out. Let me just play that one more time for you. Okay, so now we come to the last movement, and this is the place where the whole brass section is playing, the whole orchestra is playing this great gate theme, and it's really fun, and it's really awesome. A couple of, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a little tip that is one of the greatest tips for brass playing in general, especially playing in orchestra. We have to play big and loud often, and we're going to get that in a minute. What we are having to remember here is that you can breathe after the second bar if you want to, but we do also the same kind of trick if we breathe after the first note of the third bar. It carries the phrase forward as opposed to just taking breaths always at the bar lines, okay? So the orchestra lands together almost on a big unison on many of these low B flats. For example, the last note of the fourth bar. And so those can be a little bit bigger, almost like a really giant kind of bell tone that comes from a giant bell in a church, from the entire orchestra. And so that just you'll be able to hear what I'm doing when I'm doing this. So it's just a nice big forte. The fortissimo is going to be just a little bit louder at 105. But for auditions, we don't need to play super loud. We can just do a nice normal forte, a nice normal fortissimo. You get an idea of some of the phrasing there, some of the places that I didn't breathe. I didn't breathe on the bar line at 105 to, again, carry through that phrase. You've got to really think of, in the orchestra, you've got to really think of your blend with everybody around you. Also remember you're playing in the key of E flat, so a lot of times the G naturals will need to be, make sure they're not sharp, because it's often the third of the chord. Often the D naturals, you're playing a B flat chord in some of those situations. For example, 1, 2, 3 before 106, bom, pa. If that's sharp, it's gonna sound way sharp because it's the third of the chord. Did you notice the articulations are nice and clear? We want to keep the idea of a tune, even though we're just playing bass lines. Ti, 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 ta, to. So we don't want it to be too choppy with the articulation. Now, just to finish this up, let me tell you the little brass tip that I'm going to tell you. And this is really, truly a foundational tip that can make every aspect of your playing better. You have to learn as a brass player, we have to learn to comfortably and in a relaxed way take a full breath at all times. It doesn't matter what your body type is, whether you're a boy or a girl, tall, short, thin, wide, makes no difference whatsoever from what I'm talking about, because we will all experiment and figure out how to use our bodies in the best way. And this is the way that I'm going to suggest to you. Nice, tall posture, but comfortable. Head directly over your spine. Make sure your head's not too far forward. Bring the instrument to your head. Don't bring your head to the instrument. And you have to have an open chest area so your chest can be lifted and rise to get the air into the lungs. The shoulders should be back a little bit, but don't pull them all the way back. But you cannot be slumped like this, okay? So when you breathe in, you're going to relax your belly, because the innards below the lungs have to have somewhere to go when the diaphragm goes down to fill the lungs up. And that's going to, so you want to relax your tummy, and your tummy is going to go out away from your body, and you want to lift your rib cage and your chest, and you're going to have that feeling of your chest coming up and outwards towards your chin, okay, as you're filling up. The more you can start a phrase with more air in your body, then the less force you have to use with your muscles when you blow out, and you have a naturally supported and live and colorful sound with less work. You're doing more of the effort on the intake of the air and less of the effort on the out, okay? When you're taking that breath in, you can feel the air go past your lips. You can feel that whoosh of air. You can also sense a little bit of the movement in the body, okay? Let me just show you what that looks like with this little breathing gizmo here. You can't see my whole body, but I'm trying to relax the belly, and it goes out, and the chest comes up. And when you blow out, it's exactly the opposite. The chest comes down and in, and the body wants to let that air out. The air wants to release by itself. You don't have to push it or force it. And when you blow out, that abdominal movement that you did before is going to come up and in. So everything is coming back up and in towards your sternum or towards your heart, okay? So For example, let me just play part of that first part again. I will focus on my breathing just a little bit more. I promise you that if you work on that one aspect of your playing, relaxed, comfortable, full breathing, whether it's the beginning of a phrase or whether it's the breath in the middle of a phrase, and then let that air spill out without using too much muscle, you will have wonderful effects in your playing. And it works for soft or fast or slow, not just for loud playing, but you have to get used to it and you have to learn it as a new skill. All right, I've been talking a lot, and I hope this has been very helpful to you to prepare your excerpts. Good luck, and keep doing what you're doing, keep working, keep having fun, and hopefully you'll end up in the BSYO and you'll have a lot of fun playing these pieces.